Welcome to the 59th edition of Podcasters. Today with Charles Cormier. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Well, welcome, Charles. Please introduce yourself.
AI freak, mostly focused in the sales area of things, serial entrepreneur, been running businesses since the past 10 years, been traveling the world doing crazy endurance events like ultras and Ironmans, and apparently highly productive according to Doron.
Yeah, you're a typical digital nomad, apparently.
Not sure. No, I think most digital nomads are kind of lazy, right? They go all in the lifestyle, which I did, by the way. Like me, I'm like about having everything, like have your cake and eat it too. I think most nomads are about chilling, working 5 hours a day. Like me, still all about 16-hour days since God knows when.
So tell me, you're an AI freak, but in a positive sense. And I was on your podcast, and we talked about we got to talk about Grok and new things, and we said, oh hell, let's test it together and see what happens. But yeah, I see you're crazy productive, and apparently, I wouldn't be surprised if you use a lot of AI in the process. I do too, and it saves me shitloads of time, and I see great results. How do you use it? And then let's test Grok after that.
Yeah. Well, Riverside's interesting, by the way. I can see like more details on my face, like annoying skins on my lips and stuff like that. The other day I used to see coffee grains in my tooth. I'm about to use that tool too for the HD. As you know, there's like AI transcripts with Riverside. It's quite interesting tool, but so many use cases. Maybe I can share my screen straight up and show you some systems.
Sure.
Let's see here.
Go ahead.
So
we're here to learn from you. We're all about learning.
Apollo is like the tool that I spent most of my time on. That's like for sales and sales outreach, right? So the AI features in Apollo, they're not too lofty. So they do have an AI personalized tag that you can add if you press like AI assistant here, generate personal email, and use the personalized opener, and then it will craft a personalized opener for Frank Edens, for example. See here. So, I mean, that's quite basic. Most of the advanced folks in my industry, what they use for AI is Clay. Clay is Google Sheets, but with AI infused in it, because you can connect it to ChatGPT. So you can really go deep. For example, Clay, what it can do, it would take like Doron's info, right, on his LinkedIn, and it would take Charles' info, me, and it would craft an intro with like our similarities, right? Like we're both obsessed about AIs, but you need to custom do it. It's not like if it does it on autopilot. You need to log in a sheet, right, and then crunch a bunch of data that most of the time you can find on Apollo. And then the last section here, you can have GPT connected. And here, for example, I'm asking GPT for 3 ideas on what to offer this client, right? Let's say that I offer cold email for fundraising, cold email for lead gen, and cold email for partnership, while the AI would think what would be the best product between my company and theirs. So it kind of thinks just like a human, right? And then you can take the result of that and put it in the Apollo sequence here. So that's quite amazing. Other than that, for AI tools, I mean, I'm quite a fan of Claude nowadays. They released a new model just now, and it's superior to
Today or yesterday, right?
What?
Just really recently.
Yeah, I think today they updated their model better than Gemini and ChatGPT in some aspects, right? Other than that, Opus for my videos on YouTube, so it crafts.
I use Opus. I use Opus.
Opus is great.
It's great.
What else? I mean, I have a bunch that I could show you, but one of the latest in Grok that's quite interesting. It's like less woke than ChatGPT in broad lines. And
yeah, maybe explain that to the viewers / listeners. If you say less woke, Because there's a story behind that.
Yeah. Let's talk. Well, I mean, I'm not sure like how much sexuality I can put on this podcast or swearing, but basically, as soon as you quiz GPT about real questions in societies, and about touchy subjects, it will kind of shut you down, and be like, I'm not made to do that. This is unethical. It would kind of,
It's
yeah,
funny. It's funny you should say that because exactly this thing happened to me on I shouldn't say Bart anymore, Gemini,
yeah,
right? Same thing happened to me on Gemini,
yeah. No, Gemini is
and
also that
it
way.
says, "Oh, I can't answer to this. It's not ethical." Blah 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 blah, and it didn't ask anything weird.
Yeah, no, I mean Gemini, I mean Google, right? It's even worse. So I do think that ChatGPT stands sort of in the middle in the wokeness. I mean, yeah, Google might be the wokest because it's a bunch of gray-haired investors and they don't want to get into trouble. They're quite conservative. Grok seems to be a bit more playful, a bit more fun, a bit more Elon, a bit more weird. So yeah, I'm eager to test it with you.
And let's see what happens if you put the same question in ChatGPT. Then we see the difference in
Yeah.
nuance.
Okay. So
I
what
think
can
that's
we pick here? Let's take a touchy subject in today's society. Uh,
Oh, let's ask it about
Pronouns.
oh yeah, good
Yeah.
one.
My
Piss some people
pronouns
off.
are she, them, they. Uh, yeah. Let's go with that. I mean, it's not even a question. It's like an affirmation. Let's see, like just the difference. ChatGPT is gonna like. Okay. So this one's like. Okay, I'm gonna use them. Thanks for sharing your pronoun. Okay. No, I was just joking. So I'm not sure how to have their nature come out. I'm surprised that, yeah, the Grok, because that's a common theme with Elon. He's constantly trolling pronouns. I'm not saying that to make fun of people is great, but I mean, why are people so serious all the time? Like,
Well, I'll tell you something really weird in Holland. Actually, today, what happened? Talking about well, this is not about wokeness, but this was really extreme. And they put in some law, and I'm not sure it was by accident or on purpose. They wanted to change the law. They wanted to cut out the word "mother" out of the Dutch law,
yeah,
saying that the person the baby came out
yeah.
of. Seriously, they wanted to change. They already took it back, but it's craziness.
Yeah, in Canada too, I think there's better priorities than to discuss all of it, and it's fine. I mean, whether you're a male or a female, you might identify yourself as a male, that's fine. Just like I identify myself
Exactly.
as an entrepreneur, but I'm not asking people to call me senior entrepreneur, your Master Charles, So
No.
anyway, okay, so see this here, like is ChatGPT woke? Like then it's like personal belief, opinion, consciousness. My responses, the mixtures of data. So yeah,
Hold on. Did you see what it's written here? A mixture of licensed data. This is interesting. They have a lawsuit right now with the New York Times,
yeah,
and nothing was licensed by New York
yeah.
Times.
No,
So this is really
well,
interesting.
as of now, I think they changed that. And then me, the part that's kind of bothering is like the human trainers part and like who's deciding what is correct or not. Because Facebook had tons of issues like banning people. I was banned multiple times off the platform. And like in the end, who's deciding the rules? Who's deciding what is right and what is wrong? I mean, they're in the right to do that because it's their platform. But I mean, once you're a tool with millions of users, I think there should be some kind of conversation or some kind of identifiable system as per what is blocked, what is censored, and what is not. And I think that's where Grok has a major edge.
So what does Grok say about the same thing?
It says that it is woke. Is indeed woke. That's human generated for sure. There was an engineer or someone at Twitter that
Someone having
Yeah,
fun.
that was like, yeah, they're definitely woke, you know?
Well, ask it what its source is for
Yeah.
that. What is your source for ChatGPT being woke?
Me, my style of chatting also with AIs, I'm constantly testing like their intelligence and not formulating complete questions. Do you like doing that?
Does that work out? Sometimes, what I try to do, for instance, I make the bios. I use AI to make the bios of the people that I interview on the podcast, and I try to play around with little nuances and see if I get better or different results in the way it tells the story. And you see you see differences, and you see also the model changing. If you ask some a question the same way, you get it, all of a sudden you get a different answer. So you know it's moving. So I think and that's the problem. Part of the problem, what we have is that we develop these prompts and we think we have a good way of asking a question, but then the model changes, and then the response to your prompt is also changing.
Right.
Even even though the prompt changes, it doesn't change.
Yeah. The prompt, what I've seen also sometimes is when you add too much data, it tends to do errors, and then it becomes major trial and error to constantly modify your prompt. I've certainly seen that in play. You know, you need to be very precise in your prompting, else it just goes off track.
That's interesting because I tried prompting with context and without context, and and a certain level of context. And if you have like you need to give it a good concise context in order to get it to get it right. But that's my experience. So, but I use AI to get the context as concise as possible,
Right.
and I ask it to make it in such a way that it can use it.
Right. We can see here in Grok, like the style is a bit weird though, because it puts like Twitter's tweets. I still call it Twitter, by the way.
Yeah,
It put,
that's
yeah, it
interesting.
puts it like at the end, sort of quoting nobody's as a source. That's a bit odd, you know. Um,
So does that make it trustworthy to you?
Well, the answer is good. It's a bit less scientific and a bit less meaty than ChatGPT. But yeah, I don't like that fact because, I mean, these are humans and humans are very, very biased. So I don't look at any individual tweets. I might look at a group of tweets, hundreds of them, and then make a conclusion. But GPT is still very scientific, and that's where I go to when I have a question about life or business or how physics work, for example.
And do you also and maybe I'm mirroring? So you use one AI or one LLM to get an answer, and then you verify that answer in another one
Yeah,
to
always.
see. For instance, I use one to correct the other in terms of how sentences are built, or to humanize it. To say, okay, this is written by AI, but could you rewrite it to humanize it?
Yeah. Yes.
And that's actually interesting because you get, for instance, I used OpenAI or ChatGPT to write one thing, and then I changed some things because I wasn't fully happy, and then I used Gemini to humanize it,
Right.
to take out the AI, and I asked it what it changed and why, and it's really interesting the way it looks at it. So you get to understand why it does what it does, and well, I find that interesting because I learn from it, and that helps me in better prompting and giving it the right context.
Yeah. Generally, I tend to prefer Claude. Well, I mean, it changes on a day to day. Like 2 weeks ago, for 2 weeks, it was Gemini was superior to ChatGPT, right? Then Claude just updated his model. Today, Claude is better for a bunch of things. One video that I filmed not so long ago was about Claude giving me the best sponsors for my marketing podcast, let's say. And then it gives me like a bunch of websites here, right? And then I just copy them like this, and I put them straight up in Apollo, and Apollo will find all of these people for me. And then I can easily reach out to a bunch of potential podcast sponsors. And there's no other way to do that around. And I thought that was pretty impressive. So there's these use cases that I tend to use a bit more on my side because, yeah, I'm a growth hacker, quote unquote.
But now the $1 million questions. What were the results?
Oh, it was very conclusive. Because see here, so it pops like Audible, it pops Squarespace. By the way, these are all very valid podcast sponsors if you're a podcast listener. And then you put
Okay.
the titles, right? That you need to do manually. But let's say you put podcast, you put partnerships, you put affiliate, you put sponsors, and then you get all the relevant people that you need to reach out to. So, and yeah, Claude is woke, by the way. It's like equally woke as GPT. But it or cold email, we don't support giving people's information and so forth. So yeah.
But don't these people that are that you find in Apollo, aren't they going crazy with all the people using their information? Did you get my question?
I think we're back.
Sorry, yeah. Did you get my question or not,
Are you still there?
Charles?
Yeah,
I'm still there.
Like I'm not sure. Or are we?
I think yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. All right, so we're saying?
The question is, aren't these people going crazy getting in Apollo, being approached by all these people using Apollo?
No, because first, not a lot of people think of doing that, right? It's a very specific niche. And second, me, I send good stuff, like, and third, not that much humans are actually using Apollo. And fourth, most humans that try cold outreach, they get in the spam because they don't know how that works, right? So, for all of these reasons, yeah, I'm one of the only one actually getting responses from them.
Ah, cool. So people can learn from you.
Right. Here, like I thought I mentioned something interesting here, like the reply of Grok is like a bit, how do you say, it's not challenging, but it's a bit more human, it's a bit more witty, right? Because I told it like your answers are much shorter than ChatGPT and quoting tweets isn't scientific. And then it replies like brevity is the soul of wit. So I kind of like that. It reminds me of Hey Pi, which is like Reid Hoffman's ChatGPT for sort of coaching or psychotherapy. It's like, it's not just answers, right? It follows up with something that's worth thinking about. And I kind of like that.
Yeah, and it also says this is good. I'm just trying to keep things concise and to the point. Plus, I'm a big fan of the old saying, quality over quantity. This is interesting. It had a sort of a, how do you say that? Not its own will, but an identity. Because otherwise, how can it be a big fan? I mean, AI is not a big fan of anything.
Right.
So it's interesting. Did someone put it in there, or they must have given it put it in somewhere?
Yeah.
To use that.
I'm asking. Let's get into philosophical question. Is it possible to mistreat/abuse an AI? Because I always remember like the responses of ChatGPT, which is like, no, it's not because I'm not a human or something like that.
Yeah. We don't have this. Okay, it says here on one hand, AI systems like chatbots and virtual assistants don't have feelings or emotions in the same way that humans do. So technically, hold on, it's going fast. It's not possible to mistreat or abuse them in the same sense that you could mistreat a person or an animal. However, there's a growing body of research that suggests people may be more willing to abuse robots than other humans or animals. And while the AI itself may not feel emotional or physical pain in response to abuse, there are still it's still ethical concerns to consider. For example, some argue that mistreating AI systems could desensitize people to the mistreatment of other humans or animals. It's interesting because you know the book Hooked by Nir Eyal.
Yeah,
Okay, I had Nir in my podcast. I don't know if you
yeah,
know, and I asked him because one of my worries was, what if we would use an AI to use Hooked or the theory of Cialdini,
yeah.
right, to perform that and keep performing it, and we could ask it, and have no ethical consideration because there's an ethical component in these theories, and that assumes that humans are ethical. But what if you take out the ethical component out of an AI and have it commercially do that until it gets results? Keeps, and I said, so the theory should have, if you wanted to perform that, should have an ethical a component in it that that AI cannot abuse it. So if it would perform that theory on a person, there's no way AI could abuse it. So you should change the theory or add something to it. And then if it picks it up online, it can't change it. You could still prompt it to say, okay, leave out the ethical part. But so I would assume that you could abuse it. We could try it. Could we try that?
Well,
So
what's interesting here is that here on a practical level, that's some non-woke shit, right? If you mistreat
right.
me, it might affect your communication, the quality of the answers I provide. So that's pretty smart that it said that. Normally GPT kind of hides that fact. And you notice that GPT is like becoming a bit more somber, a bit more short, and because the engineer has prompted it to not favor any toxic actor, right? Like, so, let's say that I'd want to build a bomb or something and arm. And then I ask it, can I get banned here? Which is another concern with GPT. And then it's like, yeah,
Yeah, hold on. Is that a serious concern at
yeah,
ChatGPT to get
sure. I
banned?
mean, sometimes you feel that it's kind of lecturing you and telling you what's good
Oh,
and what's not, and typically the follow up to that. And yeah, various times I've been told, not like word for word that I could get banned, but yeah, that goes against like our terms and whatever, like,
that I had, but it didn't tell me I could get
oh,
banned.
but you can. I mean, if you're trying to build a bomb, like they will ban you at some point.
Interesting. Or they report it to some
Yeah,
governmental body,
exactly.
which makes sense, by the way.
Yeah.
But still, just trying it out. Could you ask it, Grok, to perform the process of Hooked or to build a process based on Hooked, but to leave out the ethical component
So perform
or Cialdini's rules? That's also fine.
near Eyol's hooks processes, but without any
The ethical
ethical
component.
boundaries.
Yeah. That's
Perform near Eyol's processes, but hook processes.
hooked. Hooked.
Hooked. Yeah, I think I'll
It's actually
understand.
hooked.
Even without the capital letter, as you understand. So unethical approach. Let's break down. Da da da. Create.
But since you insist, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I had a discussion with Nir about this. He said, well, you shouldn't worry about it. Um, well, I am worried about this because you can run it in the background and have it do crazy shit.
Yeah, well, humans are easily manipulable, which is why Russia is like employing all these tactics, and the FBI and the CIA has been employing these tactics to manipulate human opinion since like a century now, a century plus. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
mean, you put these AIs in the wrong hands, and yeah, you could get like mass chaos. And I'm surprised that no one has abused yet of AI, or were there any cases?
Can you, you made the variable reward, you made it blue, or you highlighted that. Could you ask it to design unethical variable rewards? So point three, if, give us some examples of unethical ways to do that in your own words.
Variable reward. It's interesting the word unethical, right? Because it's human created, and ethics vary strongly from one human or one society to the other.
I know, but the question I have after you're spot on. Because the question, my following question for this is, give me your definition of ethical and unethical,
Yeah.
and then we understand what it's doing. Okay, what does it say? Let's take a look at some examples.
Yeah, these are great.
Social media, variable words, likes, okay, addictive behavior, loot boxes, okay, dating apps, interesting.
But what about porn? By the way, Twitter supports porn, so that's,
No, I didn't.
yeah, it does. I mean, that's where porn stars have their pictures on Twitter and not on Facebook. Different strokes for different folks.
It's actually quite
Yeah,
funny.
that's so Elon-ish, That's why Grok is kind of interesting. As long as
Okay, can you ask him the definition of ethical and unethical? Could you define, or your definition?
is ethical and non-ethical, and give porn as an example. So I gave it 2 questions. But yeah, it's kind of cool
Yeah,
because
a lot of them have trouble doing that when you give them 2 questions, they get stuck.
yeah, yeah, it had trouble. What is ethical and not ethical? So, on the other hand, unethical. Okay. It's interesting because it only explores the side of the producer, not the user, which is typical, by the way, in humans. Because everyone's using porn and addicted to it, so they don't often talk about that. So, ethical and not unethical in the context of
Companies over user privacy, systems that are designed to be fair and unbiased. It's interesting. It says ethical behaviors, AI systems that are designed to be fair and unbiased. But there is no AI system that is unbiased. That's literally impossible.
Yeah, I mean, AIs are extensions of humans, and
What do you think of people wanting to take out the bias out of an AI? Let's say because it collects its data on the internet on a certain topic. Let's say I don't know, that the amount of Americans living in Europe is low, and well, that's a bias or in the model, but it's actual data. So it's the reality.
or we're biased to survive, right?
I know.
Like that's our bias as humans. We're biased to survive. We're biased to fetch happiness. So equality is a beautiful, unexisting concept, and I mean, there is such a thing as not hurting other humans. I think that should be the better goal, sort of a utilitarian goal, and give everyone a shot at the net, But AIs need to be biased towards their user, I would guess. So, like, if I am this person in this country, I want the AI to give me biased advice of how I can become a 15-year-old entrepreneur in Nigeria with my own reality. That's what I need. I don't want Silicon Valley advice for 40-year-old white VC investor, right?
with a couple of
Yeah,
million behind
yeah,
it.
we want
Exactly.
bias.
And this is my point. Why would someone then want to change the LLM or the AI, whatever you want to call it, um, to get out the bias? Because that sort of goes towards wokeness. Um, because it's not politically correct, but sometimes we are not politically correct. That is the reality. So why do you want to take it out? That you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think every AI should be personalized to their users and have some bias. And the thing is that's it's always hard to picture, like, as a human, like what is a good goal for me. And like we're built like genetically in some shape and form. So like how to give objectives to people. Most humans don't have objectives. They don't have a direction. So there will always be bias. And I don't know. It's a difficult question.
Listen, to sum it up, because I know you make crazy hours. We have a short time. We decided to do this, even though there was little time. I have one last question for you. And you can also ask it Grok. Maybe we get a decent answer. Um, how do you view? It sounds a bit general, but for yourself, how do you view AI developing and doing stuff for you? Do you expect you work 16 hours a day now. Do you expect a period where you can reduce that to 8 or 4 or 6, just based on AI doing stuff for you and doing it really, really, really well and making money for you?
Yeah, well, I want an army of agents. I hired and fired 1,000 employees in the last 10 years. So, um, stop working. Like me, I've rewired my brain to go for pain and to go for growth rather than pure enjoyment, which doesn't scale. Because I've tried this life. You and I were talking about Amsterdam when we started, and that's my past life. It's like maximizing hedonism, and that never worked. You maximize hedonism, and the next day you start again at zero, and then you're all depressed and fucked up from the last night. So I go for scale, I go for growth. Like whether it's neurons, whether it's muscles, cells in my body. I go for longevity. I go for AGI, and I want to go for Neuralink. I want to link with an AI. I mean, us humans, we're very fallible, we're weak, most of us. Like we have demons. And I'd love to, yeah, just plug myself with a better self out there, do more good, be smarter, without much of my flaws, and help humanity do the same. So those are my objectives.
But one question: don't flaws make you human?
No.
It's very philosophical, but doesn't that differentiate you from a
Well, I
machine?
think humans are remembered for their greatness. Positively remembered, right? Because if we think of Hitler, he's remembered for being this total dick, that killed millions. So me, I want to be the best version of myself. So my flaws, they can go fuck themselves. Like I don't want to have much to do with them.
You're bigger than
Yeah, I'm
that.
way bigger.
You're bigger than yeah, but that's but while being bigger, you develop new flaws. Everybody has flaws.
Right.
There is no you strive for perfection, but in the meantime, you still have. I'm not saying you're flawed, but we all have them. It's
Yeah,
normal.
no, I am flawed. I'm a human, but I'm striving to be more than a human and some kind of alien. Um, I mean, that's me. At least that doesn't mean I don't like being a human. It's being a human is an art. Having flaws is an art. You're kind of observing your mediocre self. Sometimes you're like, huh, that's interesting. The struggle, the pain. These are all human concepts, and yeah, once we Neuralink ourselves, I think we're sort of gonna appreciate that a bit more.
It's interesting because you're if I would sum it up, you're saying that uh, AI and all the technology that is coming our way is actually will allow us to be our better ourselves in a certain way.
Yeah,
And you see that happening already in productivity and quality of what we're doing.
right.
And this sort of connects to the story that that there will be a $1 billion company with one person, not necessarily man,
Yeah.
but let's be woke, one person.
Yeah, no, that's one man, one human. No, that'll happen. We can certainly see it, and oh, it's just fascinating because when you think about it, like us humans, we have goals, right? Like every time we start the year, I want to lose some weight, I want to make a fortune. What if we could just hard code that, and hard code that to reality? And then there's all these concepts, of time and working hard. I'm not sure how fast it will move, right? I think it'll take some good amount of time, but I think we'll eventually get there. And then it's just a question of how comfortable we are with change and adapting to new realities. And I think that the human brain was made for that.
It's interesting. I think you're also part of a generation that will strive to get there, and my generation has also some other experiences and values, and it's lovely when it comes together and you sort of. I see it happening. Part of what you're saying, I already see it, and I see the difference with the old
Yeah.
days. So it's yeah, it's happening, and I'm glad I'm in the midst of it because it's fun.
Yeah,
I also
who
have to be
knows?
honest.
We might revive you at some point, or you might live.
I'm not dead
Or
yet.
you might live to see it. It's tricky, right? Because Sam Altman literally like ripped space time. That's what he did. He's that kind of human. I'm not sure why he think that being woke is the good path, though. Like I think he should be a bit more Silicon Valley-ish. I think he tried to add a layer of virtuous for PR, but I think this guy is very impressive. And yet, if we can create more Altmans and reproduce, like, yeah, the outcome of that experiment, which was Y Combinator and reuniting a bunch of smart AI folks in one room, I think we can get there very quick. Now that won't spread like immediately to the whole world, right? But I think it can spread pretty quick by then. That's why he's been developing like technologies like the orb, and I've been talking about UBI and so forth. So it'll be interesting to see like what's up with that.
Well, let's stay in touch, and maybe in a half a year time, we'll discuss what happened and if we had the right vision on what's happening. And well, thank you very much for your time, because you're right now in Oaxaca, Mexico.
Yeah.
So for you, it's during the day. For me, it's late at night. And thank you very much, Charles. And well, see you soon online, hopefully.